Good morning and good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Masterclass Session 4 for ServiceDesk Plus Cloud. My name is Ram and I will be the presenter for today. Today, we are going to look at how you can manage software assets in the cloud version, right? So, before we get started, I'm just going to give a couple of more minutes for a few more people to join and then we will get started, right? So, 2 more minutes and we will get started with the presentation. Thank you so much. All right, once again, good morning and good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to session 4 for Service Desk Plus Masterclass. My name is Ram. I'm one of the product specialists from the Service Desk Plus Cloud team, and I will be the presenter for today. Today, we're going to learn or see how you can manage software assets and how Service Desk Plus can be the one application to manage all the other applications in your organization, right? So before we get started, as usual, just a quick roundup. A quick heads up for those who are joining for the first time. If you would like to raise questions, you can make use of the GoToWebinar control panel, and you can post your questions over there. And you also have a chat session right there to raise your questions as chat. And all the questions will be answered at the very end. And if we miss it, we will definitely take it up offline and reach out to you as well. And so today it's about software asset management, and the next webinar is on the 3rd of July. That will be on change and project management, right? So that's for the cloud, and July 2nd is for the on-premise version of Service Desk Plus. And as always, all the sessions will be recorded. We will be uploading it in the webinar page for the Service Desk Plus, and also share the slide deck and the recordings to all the registrants within a couple of days. The agenda for today's session will be like we will start off by taking up an example to see what software licensing can do or how it could prove to be a hassle, how you can manage licenses, and what are the challenges that you would face. And then we will take a demo to understand how Service Desk Plus can be a major software license management tool in an organization. And as usual, at the end of the session, I will take up your questions. So, company merger, right? Where things actually don't add up, right? So, in this scenario, right, where let's take where two companies are getting merged together, right? This is a scenario which is usually a nightmare for the IT service teams, right? If either of the companies has a system where they have kept track of all the softwares that has been purchased and all the license information intact, then it will be a breeze, right, for merging them. Both the IT teams can easily just go ahead with merging and then start working on together, right? But right, if they don't, right, so if there is no visibility, as the IT team might not have any visibility of what are the software that were purchased, then there is going to be an hassle, right, because they might not be sure what are the softwares that are actually prohibited, right, and like any software that's actually prohibited, and what are the license types that are being used, and whether there are any license agreements, when the licenses are due for, right, and there is going to be different system of records, right? So you might not have all the records in one space. Like you might have Excel sheets which might be handled which might be handled by different people, then you might not have all the information. So all these are going to pose as a challenge altogether. So as I was saying, so software assets pose a different challenge altogether, and the licensing, right, that's another hassle, right? So licensing is also not going to make it any easier, right? Because you will have a mismatch, let's say, on the software name, on the software licenses that were procured, and you will not have a clear visibility of all the managed software for which the software licenses has been procured, and keeping the software compliance in line. You like let's say you might be compliant with regards to software licenses, but there are chances where you either go over with the number of licenses you have procured, or you might not have enough licenses at all, right? And also you might also not know the various licensing models, whether they are enterprise licenses that are being used or volume based licenses that are being used. So all these four, right, they prove to be they're going to be challenging, and it's not easy to manage them. But if you practice good software management, it is first off going to help you in reducing the number of unwanted purchases for software licenses, right? You can keep track of the number of installations particular to a software. Let's say if one asset is broken, right, and you are provisioning a different asset to the same user, you can reuse the same license, since you will actually have track of it, right, instead of having to procure new licenses for the same software. And most importantly, you can make sure that you stay compliant. For example, let's say you have 10 office licenses, right, but there are about 12 installations of offices found. This means that you are under licensed and you are not compliant, right? So you can make use of reports to find out who is actually having it, and you can either get the licenses done, or if they shouldn't have it, can get them uninstalled, right? And also you will also be able to figure out what are the assets that are proven to be risky. So some of the softwares might be prohibited, or some of them might go rogue. So you will have a check on that, right? So you will be able to quickly track those workstations and take the necessary actions on those workstations, right? So a good software management, it can help you to achieve all these stuff, right? So what you have to do is align your IT with business strategy, right? First off, as you might have seen in the previous session, you need to scan assets. By scanning asset, right, you not only get the hardware information, right, you also get the software information installed on the particular workstation, right? So thereby you don't have to manually map them, you have them ready. So all you have to do is manage licenses for them, right? So by doing that, you keep an inventory of your software, and by doing that, you're going to stay compliant by procuring the required amount of licenses, or the necessary action that needs to be taken. And also you can reconcile and decommission old software, right? So if an employee has left the organization, now you know who had it, what he has, and if it is requested by another employee, you can transfer. So something like that, right? So you can do good software management with the align with the IT business strategy, right? So without further ado, let's just jump right into Service Desk and quickly see what are the various features and how you can manage software licenses in the application, right? So I'm logged into the application as an administrator, and you have the software dashboard. Right over here, you can quickly see if there are any agreements, if there are any number of unused licenses, what's the total software that I have. You can view it individually based on manufacturer or based on individual site as well, right? And you also have your compliance listed over here, and you also have a dashboard to show you what are the managed software that are rarely used or frequently used prohibited software. So you have a quick real-time data of the software installations or the software running in your organization, right? So that's your software dashboard available as part of your home screen. Now if I go to assets, I will have software tab and scan software. This is going to quickly list me the software that were found during a scan, right? So you can so what happens is, if you, let's say, if you take Microsoft Outlook, you can see that it's already installed in 3, which means it was found in 3 workstations, right? You can also manually add software if they are not found by the scans, or if you're manually managing them instead of scanning assets, you can also manually add softwares and manage them in the application, right? So for this session, what I want to see, right, what are the Microsoft licenses that I actually have, right? Say I see a lot of licenses which are being used, right, like Microsoft Office. I have SQL Server licenses, right? So I have a lot of server licenses from Microsoft. Over here, you see there is a field called type, right? So what is type? Type defines what's the software type, whether it's a managed software or it's an unidentified, meaning it's not yet managed, right? So there are different software types which you can have in the application. So if I go to setup, and if I go to asset management, I will have software type, right? So these are the default softwares that I have. You can also create your own software type as per your preference to manage the software, right? And you can also define various categories of software to manage them, and so you can have a clear visibility, right? So for now, I want to see what are the software that are not yet identified, right? So I have these many softwares, and for this I'm just going to take this particular Microsoft Office proof. All right, so it's been installed in 4 workstations, right? So if I go in over here, I see a quick description, I see the installations, right? And I get a quick history, right? And to find out if there were any installations done during a subsequent scans. So let's put all data. Okay, so it'll give you a quick scan of them, right? I mean a quick history on that, right? So first off, I want to manage this software, right? So what I would do is click on software type and changed it to managed, right? You can also mark it as a prohibited, freeware, or a shareware, depending on the license type, the software type which you want to call it, right? So once I put it as managed, I have a quick view, and the things got expanded over here, right? So on the right hand side, I can see the installation summary, the license summary. On the left hand side, I can see license agreements, installations, licenses, usages, and etc, right? So what I can now do is I will be able to procure license for this. How can I do that? I go to actions, and I have two types of licenses, right? One is a standard license, which is a new issue, or if let's say if this license is coming from let's say it's going from 2010 to 2016, right? So you can get an upgrade license for it, right? And you can have them. So for now, let's do new standard license, and it's Microsoft. It's going to pick it up, and you have different license types. You have client access license, you have concurrent license, freeware, and free license, trial license. So all these types can be configured over here, right? So you can do it individually based on manufacturer. You will be able to create even custom license types. So if I click on new license type, I can specify who is the manufacturer, right? And I can specify whether it's a workstation type license or a user type license, how many licenses, whether it's single, multiple, unlimited, perpetual, free license, what's the license option. I can even, let's say, ask for service desk, like we can call it like standard, professional, something like that, right? So I will be able to add license types and create license options, and create my own license type in the application, right? So this is individual. So for this, I'm going to use a volume license, right? I'm just going to have about let's say 5 licenses, right? So for now, it says it's under license, so I'm going to procure 5, and I can also specify if there is a licensing option. I can choose what license option it's going to be in, and I can also custom create them over here, right? I can specify the license keys, right? And I can also specify from when to when it is active. So I'm going to say I got it today, and it expires exactly next year on 19th, right? And I can specify if it's for a specific department, basically a site. I can choose that over here, right? And I can also specify if it's a downgrade rights allowed for this, right? So you can go in for a lower grade software which is coming up, right? You can also specify that as an option and save the license. Once I click on save, the license is now added. So I have purchased 1 license. Installations allowed is 5, and 5 is available for allocation, right? So what I will do is I go to licenses, and I click on this allocate option, right? And I have the 4 workstations listed. I'll just check them. and click on allocate license. Right, so thereby it says now the licenses has been installed. It says allocated for, and one more is available for allocation, which it says it's actually over licensed because I got one extra. Right, so to stay compliant, so I mean, for this demo what I'm going to do is I'm going to quickly add another workstation over here to show that how it goes compliant. Right, so just going to choose that, click the workstation and allocate. Done. Now we are compliant. Right, so likewise you can purchase licenses, upgrade licenses as well, and allocate them to workstations. Right, and now if I go to installations, I have the installation details and the allocated license information. Right, and sometimes you will put license agreements. Right, so what you can do is you can create a license agreement from here and specify, let's just call it WB random number. Right, and I'm going to say it's active from today and it expires next year. Okay, and I can specify the PO details, the invoice details. Right, and I can allocate licenses to this agreement. Right, and once I've allocated them, I will be able to specify who are all the users that should be notified before the agreement expires. Right, so I can specify those users information. Sorry, scrolling, and I will go down and click save. Right, so that's likewise you can also set up a license agreement and make sure you stay compliant during the renewal as well, because you get to notify the right teams in your organization. Right, so you can also track usage for the software and also get a history on it, as I was saying earlier. Right, so that is how you can add software, procure software licenses, and add license agreements for software in the application and allocate them to workstations. Right, and if I go out now and if I go to license agreement, I would find that particular agreement displayed over here and all the active and inactive license agreements. And software licenses can also be found over here in a separate tab. You can also import licenses into the application as a CSV file to manage them. Right, and you also have service packs. Right, so let's say Microsoft releases a key service pack, right, and you want to make sure all the workstations are upgraded. Right, so you would find that service pack information displayed over here during the subsequent scan. Thereby you will be able to understand, right, what are the installations that has happened, right, for that particular service pack, right, whether it's installed on all the workstations or not. So thereby you can make sure you get that installed on the other workstations as well. Right, we also have something called as a suite license. Right, so if I go to, let's just quickly call Microsoft again. Right, I will quickly choose a couple of licenses and click on new suite software. Right, and I will say this is a Office suite. Right, and I will say the Microsoft. Okay, and I will say what are the softwares that are component for this. So it quickly displays all the software, and I'll just choose the software and I'll say it is for development category, and I would say automatically discover as suite installation if the suite component is installed, suite component software is installed in for in a computer. Right, so I would, let's just say one for now, or I can specify what are the license, what are the computers that needs to come up, and I will click on add. Right, and so any installation with those particular software can come up over here, will come up over here for you to manage them as a suite license in the application. Right, so I can allocate licenses to the suite, and I will also be able to manage the suite installations. So once they have once they are installed on any of those workstations. Right, so I can specify that and I will be able to manage suite licenses as well. So licenses is pretty standard, again allocating them, so it's just them grouping together and managing licenses for them. Right, and we also have reports in ServiceDesk for software. So if I go to new custom report, I'm sorry, we have predefined reports where you can find out the a quick report based on the purchase versus the installed software, which is basically a query report and quickly gives you what is the software name, what's the purchase and installed. You'll be able to get a quick dwell report on that. And you can also create your own custom reports or like a summary report, right? Let's say you want to understand what is what in what workstation, what are the softwares are installed from a particular manufacturer, right? So for example, um, if I choose manufacturer is, let's just choose the other manufacturer. Contains, let's, okay, okay, so I'm going to choose Microsoft Office, and if I click on run report, it'll show me a quick list of the software workstations that are currently running on this particular with this particular software, right? So I can also save this report and export it as a PDF file, HTML file, XLS, or as a CSV file from the application, right? So that is how you can manage softwares, and you will be able to generate reports for softwares in the application. And with that, just a quick roundup on the best practices. So you will be able to get some real-time tracking with the help of dashboards, as we saw earlier. So keep track of the number of licenses that are overused, under license, make sure you're compliant, and make sure none of the agreement actually expires. You can have that quick information on the dashboard. Scan all the assets to collect the inventory information, right? Make sure you stay compliant by running regular audits and reports. Capture the license entitlements and reconcile against the usage. See what type of licenses you own and measure when they will expire, so you know when to renew. And always choose license types that is going to suit your software or your company. So the next session is on the 3rd of July on change management, so and project management. So please do join for that, and you will find that useful as well, because change is one of the extensive models available in Service Desk Plus, right? So thank you so much once again. Hope you guys found this session useful, and have a wonderful day. Bye bye.